Bonjour à tous, c'est bon pour le son?
Is everybody hearing me well? Yes, I want to talk to you about this first space movie, VR, in real-time shooting. It's a novelty from a technical point of view. It's a production by the 25-hour, la Vingt-Cinquième, France Télévisions, Prospect TV, etc. So this is the first slide. I want to go back on the origin of the project. It all started with this day of the class 2009 of the astronauts of the ESA. Met, and these 6 astronauts were being selected among 10,000 candidates. You can recognize, of course, Thomas Pesquet, who just turned 30, and Alexander Gerst, who is a German astronaut. It all started with him because we did a co-production of a TV documentary that was followed by an IMAX version. It was called Zero Gravity. And it was shown on different IMAX screens and is still in the Space Museum in Germany. So after this first experiment, when we found out that a French astronaut was going to go to space, it was official, there was a departure date, we got in touch with the European Space Agency to know if it was possible to shoot a movie around this assignment and to project it for the TV and other media. So we called it 16 Sunrises. It was the code name, and the idea was to shoot a long a motion picture. So then we started to approach the TV channels, and nobody knew about Thomas Pesquet, even though we explained there was a French astronaut who was about to be launched in space, and the TV channels told us no, we were not particularly interested. So that was our first challenge. It was the financing problem, and we didn't want to miss that opportunity to have a French astronaut in space, so we went all around the world, Houston, Moscow, to follow up on this funding. So I wrote down this quote: an opportunity, you either seize it quickly or you don't seize it. So we wanted to grab it, and the other opportunity was the launch of these new giant screens in planetarium that was very well adjusted to our screen. We had shot the movie on the German astronaut on a giant screen already, and it also was a nice link with the theme of space shown in planetariums. So anyway, so we filed a request with the CNC, and we had a first funding which allowed us to get some money and started with the shooting. So the name is Thomas Pesquet, 16 Sunrises. And also on the side, we had Planet Plus, because Thomas was getting more and more famous, particularly on social media, and finally the TV channels understood that there was a point to help us make movies on that theme. And the second title was Thomas Pesquet, the space being sent to space. So what was rest with the money? We came up with the package of 2 CDs, and we ended up with a format for a giant screen that we show at the Futuroscope and the City of Space. In the same time, we saw coming the emergence of a new format, the 360 virtual format. So we also had a few pioneers in that field, the first VR movie theaters, the first headsets as well. And we started thinking that we're doing already that format for the planetarium. Why not go one step further and do the 360 format? So we were provided with some equipment and technicians, and that allowed us to find to end with the final product, which is in the shoes of Thomas Pesquet. We had to think in terms of screenplay as well, so we decided to shoot twice 15 minutes and to do it in two parts, the first part being the training part and the second part, which is really the space mission as such. We wanted to go quickly on the training part and come up with the most ambitious movie with the whole part in space. And even when he gets out of the spaceship in the vehicle on the space. So we also wanted to exploit it in the VR movie theaters. The VR movie theaters are usually functioning with tickets that you can actually watch a certain duration of a movie. It's a different economic functioning than the traditional movie theaters. So there was also a request to have a broadcast on smartphones and internet sites. As the consumption of movies on smartphones is relatively quick, it's 15-20 minutes, so it would correspond quite nicely to our goal. So this is the first part of the movie, the introduction of the movie, the first part of the movie. It's quite surprising because it's a documentary of an astronaut who is quite famous, and we start in a kid's room. The idea was to surprise the viewers.
Piloter des navettes que mon père construisait. C'était des cartons, en fait, tout bêtement, qu'on emboîtait comme ça.
These were cardboard boxes that were representing spaceships, and there were cushions inside, and I would sit in there, and I would dream that I would go to space for hours. The idea was to choose a fiction documentary. Why make this choice? Because we wanted to reach out to as many people as possible. We wanted to start with such a take. Everybody dreamt when they were kids being an astronaut, so it was an easy identification. And also the whole of the project based on the writings and the novels of Saint-Exupéry. It is a comparison with the introduction of The Little Prince. To children, of course, but to the kid that is in every adult. It also allowed us to be in charge with the direction work, and the storytelling had to be written down. The directing was very particular because Thomas Pesquet would actually talk to us. So we're not in the traditional documentary format because we wanted really the viewer to feel involved. The second part of the movie. This is the second take. He goes into the Johnson Space Center, and you're sitting in his car. It's not a crazy, strange universe. It's something that is familiar. And the idea is to bring the viewer to understand what's going to happen. A lot of people don't know anything about VR, so we did some tests with France Télévisions, and we were trying to tell them not to move and stay facing the screen. The idea is to make the viewer understand that he's going to be able to turn his head to discover a 360-degree horizon and understand how it works. With this type of take, there's an interesting thing that happens with the VR. It's the
Thomas nous présente différents
the
lieux
idea of
du
the
Johnson
point of
Space
view,
Center, et on
because
passe d'un point
Thomas
de vue
presents us
subjectif,
different
on est assis à
locations
côté
on
de
the
lui, et
Johnson
s'adresse à
Space
nous,
Center.
à un point de vue un peu omniscient, puisqu'on
And
est un
when
peu
we're
téléporté
sitting
dans
next to
d'autres
him, we have a certain
d'autres
view on
bâtiments
it.
qui nous présentent.
And
Et ça, c'était une vraie question avec
sometimes we have a
diffuseurs, avec
different one.
le
When we look
CNC,
at
avec
some
les différents partenaires,
buildings
de
that he
savoir est-ce que
shows
ça
us.
peut marcher en réalité virtuelle, d'alterner
So
le
we
point de
were
vue
wondering
subjectif et puis des
if
points de
it
vue plus
works
omniscients
in
dans une
VR
même séquence.
to
Donc
mix
on n'était pas sûr
a
au moment
subjective
de
point of view
l'écriture du scénario, c'est
and
ce que
a
j'avais dit.
different
Et puis au cours du
view.
montage, on s'est rendu compte que ça fonctionnait,
And when we
même si voilà, Annick
edited the movie,
en France Télévisions.
we realized that
Il ne faut pas
it
trop
actually-
faire
we
d'aller-retour
shouldn't do too
en
much
multipliant les
going
points de
back
vue
and
dans une même
forth
séquence.
by
On peut faire
having
ça de
too
façon
many
assez
points
fine.
of view in the same take. So it has
Et
to
pour
be
moi, donc,
done,
je persiste et signe, du coup, l'avenir de la VR n'est pas dans le tout
it
point
has to-
of view, dans le tout subjectif.
I don't agree
Même
that
si le film
the
s'appelle Dans la peau de
point
Thomas
of
Pesquet, on
view,
n'est pas tout le temps
the
dans sa
all
peau.
point of view,
Et je
it's
pense que,
not where
on
the
pourrait pas, en tout
future
cas, pour
of
le
VR
documentaire,
is.
être tout
I
le temps
don't
dans la
think
peau de nos
for
personnages, parce qu'en plus, ça nous permet pas
documentaries, we
accessoirement de
cannot
voir nos
always
personnages
feel
sont dans
like
sa peau.
we're in the
Donc le défi,
shoes
c'est à la
of the
fois d'être dans
characters.
sa peau
So the
et
challenge was to
de
be
voir ses
at the
sensations,
same time
d'incarner au mieux notre
in
personnage.
his
Et
shoes
je
and
pense
to
que
see
ça
what he would
fonctionne pas
be
mal
feeling.
pour arriver au bout de la
And I
première
think it
partie,
works
c'est
quite nicely
tout comme dans le cinéma classique, on peut
as it
alterner
works
les
in
points de vue.
traditional
Donc c'est des
cinema.
questions de grammaire
We can alternate
narrative
point
qui
of
sont
views.
vraiment intéressantes à tester. Et puis, ça fonctionne pas mal. Ensuite, on va passer à une autre séquence.
So let's look at that
Là, c'est
take.
la séquence du décollage
That's the
auquel a assisté avec Thomas Pesquet,
of
puisqu'il
the
était backup.
takeoff.
Il y aurait un
Thomas
problème
Pesquet
sur
watched it with
l'équipage
us.
principal, il serait monté dans la fusée un peu au
He
pied
would
levé,
have.
et il serait parti sans
He
dire au
was
revoir à
not
ses proches.
in the
Sinon,
spaceship,
pas
obviously.
produit. Donc là, c'est une séquence qui me permet d'ouvrir un peu la
This
deuxième partie de mon exposé,
take
qui sont les
Is a
les
nice
problématiques
transition with
techniques,
the second part
voire
of my
administratives d'ailleurs,
presentation,
accessoirement, qu'on a pu
which is
rencontrer dans le
about
cadre d'un
the
tournage
technical challenges
sur une thématique
that we
spatiale.
had on
Donc les contraintes
the
logistiques
theme of space.
d'un film sur
What
l'espace, là, en l'occurrence pour un
logistics
décollage comme ça,
problem
c'est
did
des
we
mois de
have?
préparation, de
Months
négociation
of
avec l'agence
preparation,
spatiale russe
negotiation
pour
with the
avoir le droit de
Russian
mettre une
space
caméra
agency to
à
have the
proximité, en
right to
l'occurrence à
put
80
a
mètres de la
camera
fusée,
at
pour
80
avoir le droit
meters
d'amener du
from the
matériel un peu
spaceship
particulier aussi à ce
to
moment-là,
bring some
pour pouvoir amener des
particular
batteries de voiture,
equipment
parce qu'il fallait
and car
anticiper,
batteries
déclencher
because we had
mettre un rec, on va dire,
to
près de 14 heures en avance. Donc
anticipate
il fallait inventer
put
un
the
système
equipment
pour
14
déclencher
hours
en différé
beforehand.
tout ça. Donc il y avait beaucoup de bricolage,
So there was
d'improvisation
a
paradoxalement.
lot
Pour le
fiddling,
retour, pour la petite anecdote,
improvisation.
c'est pas le Roscosmos qui a géré
It's
avec nous
not
pour nous amener sur le lieu
Cosmos
d'atterrissage
who
de la capsule, mais
we
on a fait
worked
appel à des
with,
chasseurs de
but
Soyouz,
we
ce sont des gens qui passent
actually
leur vie
worked
à
with
essayer
some
d'aller dans les zones d'atterrissage des
Soyouz
Soyouz, on les paye
hunters.
en cash au cul du camion. Enfin, c'est des voilà, il y a beaucoup de bricolage
So there's a
paradoxalement, alors qu'on est
lot
dans un
of
univers comme ça, spatial.
improvisation
Il y a eu pas mal d'aléas
and
mécaniques,
last
il y a eu
minute
des accidents de
changes. We
voiture à un
had
moment
some
donné pour arriver
mechanical
le plus rapidement sur le
problems, car
point
accidents.
d'atterrissage. Il y a eu beaucoup d'aléas météo.
We had some
Donc on est
weather
tributaire de plein de choses. Il y a eu un
issues
orage
as
à
well.
Houston pour
We had a
l'entraînement dans
storm
la
in
piscine
Houston
qui a fait que le bras robotique de la
during
station
the
spatiale a été
training in the
endommagé.
swimming pool.
L'entraînement le plus complexe qui soit
So
pour un
the
astronaute a été
most
annulé en dernière minute.
complicated
On faisait venir
training
une caméra
session for the
des
astronaut
États-Unis,
when we were bringing
un
a camera
plongeur
from the other
validé
side
par
of the
NASA.
country.
Donc on a eu à peu près tous les problèmes
We
possibles.
had a
Donc
lot
tourner
of
avec un
these
astronaute, en
problems.
gros, c'est des contraintes
Shooting
XXL,
with
comme j'ai
an
dit,
astronaut
notamment
or
en
some
termes
XXL
logistiques
types
et
of
même
constraints.
administratifs d'ailleurs,
In terms
puisqu'on
of
travaille avec trois agences
logistics
spatiales, qui en
and
l'occurrence
admin as
représentent
well,
la France, les
because we
États-Unis
had to work
et
with three
puis,
different space
la
agencies,
Russie. Dans
Russia,
le contexte dans lequel
France,
on tournait, c'était le contexte ukrainien, donc c'était compliqué, on
and
sentait
the
qu'on mettait
USA.
des bâtons dans les roues, donc c'était pas simple.
So it was
Et puis quoi qu'il arrive,
quite
si on tourne avec un
touchy,
Français, le problème,
even
c'est
if
quand on
we
est dans la
were
station spatiale, il faut que
shooting
ce
a
soit
French
tourné et filmé
person
par
when he was in
l'Américain,
the
ou
space
l'Américaine, en l'occurrence.
agency had
Donc,
to
quoi qu'il arrive,
be
il
shot
fallait aussi
by
qu'on ait
the
l'autorisation de la
Americans, so
NASA.
we had to have an
Donc, c'était
authorization
complexe.
by the NASA.
Et par ailleurs, il y avait des problématiques de visa.
There were some visa problems, there was some equipment that was stuck at the customs, etc.
Produire donc et tourner en
So
VR,
producing
c'est aussi un
and
casse-tête.
shooting
Non seulement
in
produire sur une
VR
thématique spatiale, c'est compliqué, mais
is
produire en
a
VR, ça
bit
multiplie les
of
problématiques au carré. Donc on a eu pas mal de
problem
défis à relever.
because we had a lot
On
of
a dû
challenges
tourner dans la
to
piscine
face.
du-
We had to
du
shoot
Biel à
in
Houston,
the
donc
pool
avec
in
un rig,
Houston,
Abyss, donc qui était
again
développé par,
with an
par des
Abyss
mobiles. On a
equipment.
utilisé un rig
We used
GoPro
a
que j'ai
rig,
développé.
a
Enfin, je vais
GoPro
pas
rig.
rentrer dans
I
le
don't want
détail.
to get into much
Utiliser
technical
des rigs en
details.
back-to-back,
We
moins
had
bonne
some
qualité, mais
back-to-back
beaucoup plus simple à
rigs
mettre en place. Là, c'était
that
une table
were
qu'on a mis en
maybe
place en quelques minutes,
lower
on peut
quality
improviser.
but easier to
Donc à
put in
chaque fois, il fallait
place. We have to be very proactive. And for the takeoff scenes, we shot with some red cameras. But then after we did the editing, we had to work more on the quality of the image.
Mais certaines qu'on n'a pas pu utiliser, les vintage qui sont
We had the vintage, and that's 30 kilos, so we skipped that one. Sigma, we couldn't use it either. So we really had a lot of prototyping work to do on the scene that I showed you earlier. That's what you can imagine. It's about 35 degrees outside. The camera is resting on the floor, and all the cameras are also positioned next to it. So everybody puts a little plastic bag so the camera doesn't fall over when the spaceship takes off. We had to buy a plastic wrapper for the camera at the Baikonur market with a prototype of the remote trigger was done, plus the batteries for the truck that we bought downtown. And of course there's a special team that worked hard in trying to connect the batteries, so getting all that equipment ready was a big challenge. You can see how the equipment was positioned next to our cameras. They suffered, as you can see on the picture. Our material was damaged and we couldn't return it to the rental company. We had to buy new ones, we had to buy it off them. So that's the typical types of constraints that you had on virtual reality. We had surprises as well during the shooting, and that was part of our experience as pioneers. Sometimes technicians didn't have enough experience over the long, because they don't have that much experience on VR shooting, of course. We, the team, the production team, we of course made mistakes as well. The equipment changes very quickly. There was a large quantity of images to deal with. We had to do a backup on every camera. Downloading it takes a lot of time. Plus we had to have a technical validation by the ASEA, the NASA and the Roscosmos, the three agencies. We had some challenges during the shooting. We had very little time to install the equipment because the astronauts have a very tight schedule. The equipment is difficult to use and very little time to install it, very little time for the takes, very little time for the direction work. Just to coach the astronauts, we had very little time to do so. Plus all the technical challenges, water, hot and cold, whether it was on the ground or in the space, because you go from 150 degrees to 50 degrees. So that creates some constraints in protecting the equipment. So even if it's the NASA who's supposed to ship us some GoPro, it's a very complex process. Some recording, securing cars, debris, etc. Finally, the issues of post-production, that's quite fascinating because that's the work that we do on the binaural sound. We sometimes change the editing, and of course that affected the sound. That was already good. On images in the post-production, that cost very quickly a lot of money because you have some outside shooting of the space station that we didn't shoot, that we didn't take, so it takes a long time, it's very expensive. There's some back missing, the costs were rising, the coordination among all the teams on the shooting, on the post-production side, it was not good enough. on the credits, it was not perfect either. And the last is to be continued. I think we're not done with our challenge because the second part is not done yet. So I want to finish with the sentence of Mark Twain. They didn't know that it was impossible, so they did it. So I think that really summarizes the state of mind that we had when we did that adventure. I think I spoke very quickly. 20 minutes, okay. I wanted to go fast. I can present you some other videos. There's somebody from France Télévisions, François Vipou, François Klein for the technical part. So please feel free to ask any questions. Hello. I did watch the movie early on, and I was very impressed by the quality of the shooting. And since you said you didn't have a lot of time, was there anything that you can prepare beforehand? Or did you do everything on the set at the last minute? How did it work? Yeah, the screenplay was quite well written, very structured. We had worked on a previous documentary and we knew exactly how the training were taking place. Of course, we improvised a lot because we asked more from Thomas than from Alexander Gersh, particularly on the direction part. There are some takes that we shot at Thomas in his room, or we asked him questions. When did you feel like you wanted to become an astronaut, etc. We finally didn't use we didn't end up using that take, but we did shoot it. So there was a large part for improvisation. In the first part, I'm thinking about one sequence, and he says, how are we doing? And he improvised, and he actually spoke freely, so there was a lot of some part of improvisation, but we did that because Thomas was very excited to do that project with us. There is room for improvisation. Of course, the technicians with whom I was working were the ones who were shooting for the giant screen, planetarium, etc. And another team for the VR. Sometimes we're not all coordinated, and they didn't have a lot of time to set up their equipment, so my job was to push them, and as we moved along, they understood what was expected from them. Among the equipment that you have today, are there some problems? Well, with the new equipment changing, cameras, etc., and sound, is there anything that could be better today? Yes, but we worked on the post-production phase on the sound because we already had a very big team, and Roscosmos told us there's enough of you, we don't want any more technicians on the set. So we take the sound ourselves, record the sound ourselves. If we had a better integrated solution, it would have been easier. And also using the rigs with 6 cameras. There's some devices today that are better integrated. You just push and play, and the quality is better, and you would have saved time and not have to check that each individual camera was ready to go for the first or second take. So we could have gone faster with equipment that's more reliable. So you made your own rigs? No, it's not me. It's the technicians that we worked with, particularly for the underwater scenes. But now we have more with solutions that are, better. Hello, I have a question. Since the installation for VR shooting is longer and more complicated, can you shoot in a space station without the VR, just with astronauts that are not trained for that? And how did you manage to have those 360 images? That will be a keynote for next year if the second movie is selected. But we had something going for us. It's Thomas's application. We had about 10 minutes of images useful. The VR, it's fairly long sets. So, by memory, we had about 20 shootings for the VR, so that made it easier. I had a shooting list with different sets and different types of cameras, and on the VR it was more limited, and there was no quality VR camera, so we worked around it to have better quality. We worked with the pictures that were taken. It takes over a year to have equipment validate to work with in space. So we also worked with the REDs that they have in space, and so there's a huge post-production work to synchronize all the going back and forth with the space station.
Donc on a complètement triché.
So
et finalement, je pense que la NASA et le Roscosmos
worked around it, and I don't think that the NASA or Eurocosmos is not going to understand how we did it.
Mais en fait, théoriquement, c'était pas possible.
But technically, it was very difficult.
At
some point, we thought we can't shoot in VR. And when we thought about it, and when we thought of the equipment that we had and doing tests with the first images that we'd get, we thought, yeah, we could do it, and we will even have a better quality. So it's a blessing in disguise. It's Thomas who dealt with the whole shooting part. Yes, it's the Americans and Thomas. The Russians, no, particularly at that time. What about the pool? Okay. The scene in the pool.
Beaucoup plus intéressant. Alors la piscine, donc ce qui était compliqué, juste pour finir là-dessus.
That was what was complicated. We had to have a diver, which was certified by the NASA, that came in the pool. And we had to have the waterproof tank and negotiate with the NASA teams to place on the model of this space station some cameras on top of it, so we're able to place the camera.
Et puis, et par ailleurs, il y avait d'autres plans qui étaient plus pour vraiment nous immerger dans la peau de Thomas Pesquet, qui était des plans
two other shootings to make us feel that we were in Thomas's shoes.
Donc là, on est vraiment posé sur la station spatiale.
We're really on top
of
the space station.
Après, ça a été effacé, justement, parce qu'on a plus le pied. Là, c'était vraiment très complexe à mettre en place. C'est l'entraînement le plus cher et le plus complexe des astronautes. Donc, le petit grain de sable qui vient se mettre là-dedans, c'est pas forcément simple en nos relations avec la NASA, mais vraiment, ils ont vu les images après.
The NASA viewed the images right after, and they were pretty impressed. Nobody had ever shot in VR in that pool before, so I think they were quite happy with the result. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.